One of the big challenges we have when we're looking at a network is we need to know what is in this network. Now, in other episodes, we talk about tools like, for example, NetStat, which allow us to know what's happening on an individual host, our local host. But what if you have a whole bunch of computers? There's a zillion scenarios within the IT security world where you want to be sitting at one computer and you want to start checking out other computers. Now, when I'm talking about checking out other computers, we're talking about using powerful tools that will query not just one system, but all the systems within a certain, say, network ID to determine what is going on. You're going to be running into certain tools that will go out and sniff a network, and that's what I want to talk about right now. Now, the first one I want to talk about is probably the most famous, called Nmap. Nmap is a powerful tool. It is used for inventorying of networks. It's used for looking for bad guys. It's used for all kinds of stuff. But it's not the easiest one in the world to use. However, I'm not too bad at it, so let's take a moment and use it. Now, I need to warn you, Nmap is more commonly used in Linux systems, but I'm a Windows guy, so I've got it running right here. So anybody out there who likes Linux, don't yell at me. All right, so here I am at a command prompt, and I've got Nmap installed. So there's a lot of different ways to run Nmap. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just check out the network around me. So I'm going to type Nmap, give me lots of verbose information, and then do what's known as a ping scan, and then I'm going to give it a network to check out, which is the local network for this right here. And let's see what happens when I run this. Now, it's going to be taking a minute, so that's the one downside to Nmap, is sometimes you got to sit around and wait a little bit. Okay, so we got a ton of output here. Let me scroll up to the top so we can see this. So basically what I've asked Nmap to do is I said, look out on the entire 192.168.4 with a WAC24 subnet mask, and just give me a quick idea of what's out there. I'm not asking for much information. So let's pick individual ones. So you'll see it just starts at 0 and goes all the way through. And here it found, like, this is my router. These are some more unused IP addresses. And as we go through, you'll notice what it's doing is it's giving me an idea of how many up and live systems are out there right this very moment. So there's a lot of computers on my little network. No big surprise there. Now, Nmap doesn't stop there. We can actually go a lot deeper. Now, one of the things I want to do this time is I'm going to run Nmap again this time, but this time, instead of just looking on my own little local network, I'm actually going to go to a very specific computer out on the internet that Nmap has been nice enough to set up for us to play with. And it's the infamous Nmap.Scanme computer. So let me type this in real quick. So you type Nmap again. I want verbose output. This time I'm saying I want to know what the operating systems are. And we're going to let this puppy go. Now, in this particular case, we're not scanning an entire network. I'm actually trying to zero in on one very specific computer. So let's see what it came up with. All right, fantastic. So let's take a look at what's happening on just this one little machine. Now, if you think about this, they're going to put some fun stuff for us to find here. All right, first of all, here's all the different types of work it's trying to do, but here's what I'm interested in. I notice that port 22 is open, so it's an SSH server. I see that port 80 is open, so I know automatically that's a web server, and then port 9929, which is a non-standard port number, is also available, and I can go ahead and start doing stuff with this. So that's one of the most important aspects to Nmap, is that Nmap by itself doesn't hack anything. What Nmap allows me to do is to go in, query a system, and then I can start doing stuff. If I know that port 22 is open, I might turn to some SSH attack tools to try to break into this system via SSH. If I'm just a network administrator and all of a sudden I see one of my servers is running SSH, I might be making some phone calls to shut that port off. So when we're talking about a tool like Nmap, keep in mind different scenarios require different actions. But this is actually pretty cool because not only that, not only does it show that it's SSH, here's my SSH keys that are involved with that particular one. And I got some other, like, I know this is a Windows machine because I see it's running 135, 139, 445. And then it gives me a little trace route so I know the process I went through to get to that particular system. So here's just one example of how Nmap can really be handy. Now, I like Nmap quite a bit. It is on every thumb. You come up and say hi to me, I'm going to have a thumb drive on me, and on that thumb drive is going to be Nmap. But one of the downsides to Nmap is that it's a little, well, it's hard to read as like this. So there's a wonderful tool that comes with Nmap called Zenmap. And all Zenmap is a graphical user interface and overlay that runs on top of Nmap. So let's fire him up. Okay, so welcome to Zenmap. Now, one of the things you're going to learn about Zenmap is that you basically, just as you saw me type in those strange commands at the command prompt, you're really doing the same thing. It just organizes it a little bit better. So let's go ahead and have him do, now he has all these pre-made scans. I'm going to do what's called a ping scan, which is not super aggressive. Now while this guy's scanning, there's a couple of things I need to warn you about. Any decent intrusion detection system, either host-based or network-based, is going to go bananas if you start running scans like this onto a network. So be warned, if you're in the office and you're like, gee, I'm going to try Nmap, you may end up getting a phone call. Okay, so we've got some output here. So now we can see we've got a whole bunch of systems on this network. I want to keep that a little bit closed because I don't want you guys seeing exactly my DNS names on everything. But the bottom line is I've got tons and tons of systems. It's a little bit easier to use than running Nmap from a command prompt because I can click around a little bit. It also has some handy tools. For example, a topology tool. He's a little bit of a challenge to work, but we can make him work. Let me zoom in a little bit. And all this is doing is representing all the different systems on this individual LAN. So it's kind of pretty in the way that it just shows all this stuff. Let me scroll in a little more. See if I can get this fisheye to bring up a little bit more. He's not going to play. That's okay. And I can actually click on individual systems, and I can do whatever research I need to do on it, whatever ports and whatever. Now, that was a bad example, but I can go through and look at all these individual systems and figure out what's going on. Let's see if this one is a little bit more interesting. There we go. So on that one particular system, which happens to be my router, I can get whatever information is going on that particular system. So Zenmap is just a semi-graphical Nmap, and it is an incredibly powerful tool. Now, Nmap is great, but it's not the only one out there. In fact, there's a lot of really wonderful, absolutely free tools out there. And I'm going to show you one real quick. Let me close him out. And what I have here is a wonderful free tool called Advanced Port Scanner. This is completely free. It works fantastic. And it's kind of doing the same job that we saw with Nmap, or at least the Zenmap interface. You can see that I've told it to scan everything from 192.168.4.1 to 192.168.4.254. And this guy right here gives me all kinds of information. For example, I can click on a particular system. I can see what ports are open on this. I can run tools. I could run an SSH against it. Let's see if that actually works. So I can connect into something if I want to. But the bottom line is that I know all the different systems that are on the network, and I also can tell what ports are open. So that's really what these type of network scanners can do. So when you're using network scanners, keep in mind there's going to be three big areas where you're going to be using them. Number one, you're looking for open ports. Maybe not necessarily on one machine, maybe you are, but these types of tools tell you all the open ports on all the different systems on your network, and then you can decide to do. If you're doing a vulnerability assessment, well, maybe you can use that as a way to attack a system. If you're a network administrator and you're trying to stop these guys, this is where you can then go over to that system and turn off whatever open ports are running. The other big thing that makes these incredibly popular is network inventory. It shocks us how many times we don't know what's on our own networks. Now, I'm not talking about individual desktops and things like that, but people bringing in smartphones and people plugging in their own little laptops or anything like that. Tools like this will find them. It's got to have an IP address to be on the network, and they'll help you with it. The last thing you want to watch out for is what I call rogue systems. A rogue system is generally any system that really shouldn't be on the network. And that doesn't always mean evil. For example, it's really common for people to bring in an extra system and they plug it in. It's just their home system, and that could cause problems in terms of, does that system have good anti-malware, whatever it might be. So when you're thinking about these tools, keep in mind of those different types of scenarios.